to this edition of the program Wake Up Sierra Leone. We are in the 6th Parliament, as already, of course, highlighted, of the 7th Republic of Sierra Leone, has on Friday, December 20th, 2024, officially removed former Auditor General Lara Telopias and her Deputy Tamba Momo after the government's bench pulled 100 votes on the motion to remove the Auditor General, whilst the, of course, main opposition, APC, pulled 36 votes. Before the House divides into voting, the opposition clearly stated their stance, while ruling bench, of course the SLPP, pushes for the motion for removal. The removal comes after the President's bill, of course, after President Bill sent the tribunal report to Parliament for subsequent action. A parliamentary reporter, Tony Sawyer, files in this story.
I, 137 persons voted. Out of the 137, we had 1 boy, 36 nay, and 100 aye.
That was the voting process in the well of Parliament, with Honourable Parliamentary acting as the presider. The results ended in a landslide victory for the ruling bench, and in them the removal of the Auditor General. This exercise is predicated on Section 1199, which gives Parliament the power to remove the Auditor General as prescribed in Section 137, subsection 7. It could be recalled that in 2021, both Lara Telopias and her deputy were suspended after audit report captured some financial discrepancies in the office of the President and some other offices. The same landed them in an investigation which eventually came with a report which was sent to Parliament to effect their removal. The House today convenes to make a decision on the matter. An Honourable Parliamentary reads the letter from the President.
I urge you to take a decision on this matter with the utmost diligence, considering the tribunal's findings and principles of justice and transparency that guide our nation. Your decision will have significant implications for the integrity of our governance.
The opposition bench considers the inclusion of this item on the other paper as an ambush.
At the time that most of our members are in Gambia attending the retreat organized by our party, and if we had had earlier notification, we would have called them to come and participate in this very crucial voting.
On the contrary, the government bench says all were informed.
Will direct us at any time to put an item on the other paper that it thinks is of public interest. It has taken too long. It's there. Before this time, the Speaker called us and explained to us that such discussion will come up on the other paper. We met with him and he said we give instructions.
Nevertheless, the motion for removal was carried and voting by voices was utilized. Yet the opposition, unsatisfied, stood on SO41 for voting by counting.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I stand on SO46-1 for a division.
This seems to have necessitated an interpretation of Section 119 and Section 137, subsection 7, which is not so clear as to what constitutes two-thirds majority.
Section 137, subsection 7 of the Constitution, supported by Section 91, the two-thirds will be concealed from those members of Parliament present and voting today.
Even though the opposition were not okay with the interpretation, the voting process went on and the ruling bench won.
137 persons voted. Out of the 137, we had 1 boy, 36 nay, and 100 aye.
Affairs has been carried.
This victory means the Auditor General has finally been taken off the position today. According to many in the public domain, the action has a lasting impact in the country's democracy. Samuel Tony Sawyer, AYV News, Freetown.
Indeed, many thanks to our parliamentary man Samuel Tony Sawyer for that report. And so this morning, to further discuss the removal of the former Auditor General, Lara Tilopias, and her deputy Tamamomo by the Parliament, and of course controversies surrounding the removal. In the studios, we've just been joined by Honorable Ibrahim Barry, who is a member of the main opposition APC, and of course he's a member within the communications unit of the parliamentarians from the APC in Parliament. And we similarly are expecting a member of Parliament from the Sierra Leone People's Party. The SL people, we've extended an invite for them to be in the studios this morning to discuss this all sensitive issue. And nonetheless, we also have in the studio our parliamentary man, of course, is Melvin Tijan Mansari, who is a parliamentary journalist who's been following issues regarding the Parliament of Sierra Leone. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you in the studios this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Sierra Leone, and good morning, viewers.
I start off with you, Honorable. Help us understand what does this precedent means for the democracy of this country?
Thank you very much. It's a dangerous precedent. It's one that will haunt us. It's one that has triggered our democratic trajectory, our drive to consolidate our democracy, our drive to ensure that government officials are held accountable, our drive to ensure that when you are using taxpayers' money, you need to account. When the former, the 44th president of the United States visited Ghana, he asserted, he re-echoed a famous statement to Africans that what we should do is to is that Africa no longer needs strong men, but what we need really are strong institutions. What are strong institutions? Strong institutions means powerful parliament, an independent parliament that is there to make law, to provide legislation, to ensure it performs its function without any political interference or manipulating the rules in favor of one party or to support a particular government. It basically means that a system where even the president will not be powerful to a point that where he controls the parliament. We saw what happened recently in South Korea when the president, the issue to remove the president in relation to his premature declaration of a martial law. We saw even members from his own party sided with the people to vote against him. So that's the kind of democracy we wanted to see in Sierra Leone. It is so interesting to see countries like Ghana, countries like Senegal, countries like Liberia, our neighboring Liberia, showing us what really democracy means. And then, so what happened that the ruling, changing the rule in the middle of the game in favor the government is a very dangerous precedent, and it's a mockery to our democracy. You see the speaker on that day moving from his respectable position as a speaker, as a third most powerful man in the country, to a mockery position, which is attempting to act like a drama lecturer telling us about of parliament. It was a disgrace for our democracy, and it's a shame. It's even a big shame even for me as a member of parliament to be part of such a process to remove anything about Lara in person is about removing a major pillar of democratic accountability in Sierra Leone.
Over time, we've seen, of course, the indelible footprints of these personalities that were removed. But just as you earlier mentioned, it's not about the personalities, but of course, the office and how same has been done. But nonetheless, we'll go for a short break. We seem to be having issues with the sound. We'll take a short break, and we'll come back, we'll continue the conversation. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone. Welcome back. This is still Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television, on channel 33, on Radio 101.7 FM, and on DSTV channel 399, and also on our Facebook page, AYV News. In the studios, we do have Honorable Ibrahim Barry, who is a member of Parliament from the main opposition APC, and Melvin Tijan Mansari. We're discussing the removal of the Auditor General. Honorable, before that short break, at some point in time, I heard from the minority leader in Parliament, Honorable Abdul Kagbo, who did mention that this was an act of ambush. Was the membership of the APC not fully informed as to the decisions that were about to be taken in Parliament?
Yeah, normally it's we normally receive order paper for the next day. What's normally when we say order paper, it's the agenda for the next day, what will be included, what will be discussed in the next legislative day. On that particular day, I think it was around almost 10 p.m. the previous night that some of us saw. On that day we were late because we were dealing with the budgets, and then so it's we don't know why they did that, but they know. And then it happened at a time when we have 3 or 4 of our members attending the All People's Congress Diaspora Retreat in the Gambia. It happened at a time when we have 2 members of parliament, one representing the APC in Nigeria, another also representing the SLPP in the same Nigeria. But because they knew that this was coming up, they facilitated for the SLPP MP to return and then be part of the removal on Friday, but then they left our own APC MP in Nigeria. So for us, I think it's properly calculated. They knew. On that day I was looking at the speaker, he was reading from his script, and I knew that this must have been written a day or a week before. It must have been agreed among themselves that, look, we are going to ensure that the 2/3 refers to only people that are in, who are going to leverage a day that most of them will not be around. You know, like I said in the beginning, my brother, and to Sierra Leoneans, it's a shame that we will reduce ourselves. You know, looking at the election in Liberia, looking at the recent election in Ghana, looking at the recent election in Senegal, you know, even in Botswana, I think will have pushed us, will have nudged us to at least allow democracy to thrive. It does not create any difference if on that day we go to that place and then people vote, whether they get the 2/3 or they don't get the 2/3. At least let the proper procedure happen. Let's see the union celebrate for the sake, celebrate that. Look, we are now at that level where our parliament can perform its function without any manipulation or whatsoever. That was really what we were looking forward to.
Melvin Tijan Mansari, how consequential are the actions of Parliament, taking into account the removal of the Auditor General and the Deputy?
I think it has got far-reaching consequences politically. It sends a message that whatever the executive or the president wants, that can be achieved unfettered. And also it speaks to the fact that the opposition itself and members of the public can be equally blamed. And I use the word members of the public because some members of the opposition or all members of the opposition are representing them. And come to ask yourself, how comes 2/3 of members of parliament, 2/3 of members of parliament, in this case is 146, how comes 146 MPs were not present for that very crucial ruling? So it speaks to the broader problem that we've been having with this and previous parliaments, the problem of poor representation, poor attendance, absenteeism, because, I mean, no matter what you say, a lawmaker is elected to represent and to be in parliament always. So that excuse of, well, we are not in parliament, even if it was for an official reason, I think the official reason for the removal is more officious than any other party or extra parliamentary affairs. So it speaks to that problem of representation, but also broadly about governance. It talks about independence and integrity of institutions, and basically putting the audit service on the limelight, but also equally that of parliament, that of the judiciary, and that of the executive. I mentioned the judiciary for a particular reason because there was a prayer on the same matter before it that was not attended to. And now we are seeing its or multiplier effect, that because there was a constitutional prayer unanswered, now we are seeing constitutional, what I will call constitutional quagmire over the interpretation of Section 91 versus that of Section 137 and that of Section 1197. So for me, I think even the courts cannot be eschewed in this. But of course, for the executive...
Melvin, you did mention a point, of course, which I believe the Honorable also touches on. It has to do with the wordings of the Constitution in regards to members of Parliament present. It says the total number of two-thirds of the members of parliament. It's not fair enough to say that it could be interpreted as two-thirds of members of parliament present within that particular session. Is it not fair enough to say that could have been the interpretation, and that was more the reason why the speaker, the Honorable Speaker, did proceeded with that particular paper?
I think this, in as much as the Speaker's ruling was very unprecedented and controversial, but you used the word, let's look at the letters of the Constitution, and I will first direct you to Section 137. If you look at the provision of Section 137(7), which is the baseline, and if you'll permit me to read, it says, Section 137(7), a judge of the Superior Courts of Judicature shall be removed from office by the President. In this case, replace the word a judge for the Auditor General. A, if the question of his removal from office has been referred to a tribunal appointed under subsection 5, and the tribunal has recommended to the President that he ought to be removed from office. And B, if his removal has been approved by a two-thirds majority in Parliament. Underline again, let me recap. If his removal has been approved by a two-thirds majority in Parliament. In Parliament. But underline that. But let me show you where the law conflicts itself.
Quickly, because I've also
in section 1, in section 91, subsection 1. I'm not a lawyer, but I think this ought to have been in the Supreme Court, and that's why I said earlier on that the Speaker's ruling itself is controversial, because in as much as he's a lawyer, when he sits on that chair, he does not represent the judiciary, he represents the legislature. In section 91, Samuel, it reads, section 91 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, it says, the side note there is voting in Parliament, and perceivably this should be the benchmark for, well, in this case, wherein the Constitution have said two-thirds of in Parliament. But listen,
that was clearly heeded too. Voting was done in Parliament. Yes, quickly.
It's not about voting in Parliament. There is this very linguistical or grammatical arguments raised by the Speaker that I think lawyers should dissect. This is what 91(1) says. Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, any question proposed for decision in Parliament shall be determined by a majority of the votes of the members present and voting. So that's the linguistical or grammatical edge, or what I would say advantage the Speaker capitalized on. But that is, again, like I said, the Speaker is not a constitutional lawyer, and I think that should have been a prayer for the Supreme Court. But even at that could not have been an excuse if all APC MPs were present and voting in Parliament. So who is to blame if all APC MPs were not present and voting in Parliament?
Honorable, Melvin did mention something which has to do with punctuality by members of Parliament. This seems a slap on the face of the APC, because peradventure, if the totality of members of Parliament within the main opposition APC were in Parliament on that day, there were every possibilities that the two-thirds would not have been reached. Honorable.
Yes, of course I agree with you, but you will also agree with me that in any space, in any organization or institution, the probability to have 100% attendance always is limited because of unforeseen circumstances. Before we started, I joked with you that I was expecting Phoebe. You said you were expecting her. Do you know why Phoebean is not here? You don't know. Maybe it's an unforeseen circumstance. Things happen. People become sick. People travel. You know, we have members that are part of international parliaments. We have Honorable Mabinti Fona and that they were in that place. We are also awarded the symbol by our party. So sometimes we attend parties' official functions. We had the Diaspora Gambia retreat. We had like 3 or 4 that we are there. But again, I agree with you. We have a procedure. Normally for me, if let's say I became ill or due to unforeseen circumstance, we communicate to our leaders. So it happens, even on the side of the SAPP. It doesn't mean that they have 100% attendance. But like when you properly communicate, like on the time we elected the speaker, I think we knew that it was on this particular day that we are going to elect the speaker. People had to travel all over. We prepared ourselves. We came to Freetown. We went earlier in Parliament. But this one, it was, like I said, around 9 to 10, the night before the day that we realized that, oh, tomorrow they are coming with the AG, the issue of the removal of the Attorney General. So I agree, of course, had it been all members of Parliament present, maybe. But remember, the decision of the speaker, which according to the Lawyers Society, these are experts, these are people who are lawyers, expert lawyers that form the society. They published a press release on December 21. They said, according to the combined effect of section 119, subsection 9, and 137, subsection 7 of the Constitution, the removal of the Auditor General requires a two-thirds majority of the total membership of Parliament, not merely those present at the time of the vote. We respectfully disagree with the interpretation reportedly provided by the Honorable Speaker. These are experts, they are lawyers. You know, you see, in life, my brother, it's about precedent. We are now is the time. This was the only time. We've had so many speakers before Sengepo, with all due respect. This was the only time in history that they are now trying to apply grammar. You cannot change laws for your convenience. You know, we have constitution, we have procedure, and sometimes we look back to precedents. So at that moment, if they say the composition of the current parliament is 149, it's 81 SAPP MPs, 14 PC MPs, and 54 APC members of parliament.
It is very clear that interpretations, for particularly so the wordings of the Constitution, do take three folds. It has its literal, the mischief, and that of the golden rule. It's possible that Singapore will have utilized same in his interpretation of the wordings of that Constitution. But again, Honorable, what does this signifies, particularly so with regards checks and balances in the country?
It's a zero approach. In Parliament, we are guided by rules, we are guided by laws. We are the lawmakers, we make law. So first of all, we are guided by law. We make law, we provide oversight, we provide checks over these institutions to see how are they abiding by the law, how are they enforcing the law. So we, as an institution, we have to demonstrate the highest level of integrity on how we apply the law to ourselves. We are guided by the 1991 Constitution, and we are guided by the standing orders of Parliament. Now, with the current composition of this Parliament, the 149, even if you add 14 PC MPs to the 81 members of Parliament for SLPP, plus even if you add Mame Bangura and Thompson there, who are mostly voting against us, so they still
have you proved to same as to
no,
the fact that they're voting against
the APC? Of course, they are suspended members of our party. They went against our position when we agreed that as a party we are not going to participate in governance. They went against our position on the election of the speaker. We also proved that they went. Even Mame Bangura was there and canvassing other members of the opposition to vote in favor of the government position to remove. So we normally don't count them. We were 54 elected, but the two of them, they have forgotten that they were awarded the symbol by the APC. They forgot that they were elected by the APC, so they decided. But that's not an issue. The issue here is about precedent. When the speaker, normally, if they could have targeted the two-thirds from the 149, there is no way they will have get that two-thirds with the current composition, because two-thirds is 99 out of the 149. So even if you add all the 14 PCMP, even if you add all the Mame Bangura and Thompson to them. But let me just make something clear. In voting in Parliament, naturally, you have three types of voters, my brother. You have the patriotic voter. So I want the public, even though people are saying, oh, 7 APC MPs voted in favor, which we are disappointed at, but I want the public to even ask the 81 SAPP MPs and the PC MPs that voted to remove Did they vote with their conscience? You have three. You have one. You have patriotic voters. Let me just finish.
Do you
this.
have patriotic voters in Parliament?
No, those are the three. I'm just creating the platform. You have patriotic voters. You have voters who are principled voters. Patriotic voters will look at all the circumstances and vote in the best interest of the country. You have principled voters who will look at such issue and say, no, I'm going to vote based on the principle I believe that he or she must be held accountable. Then you have partisan voters who are just there. They don't care about the country. They don't care about the benefits or how government democracy can be. They are just there.
Are you one of them?
Yeah. No, I am not. I voted against. Now, what I am telling you, why people are castigating the APC that 7 of us sold out, which we are disappointed and we are currently doing internal investigation. But people should also ask the SLPP MPs and the 14 PC MPs who not even one of them, not even one, voted against her removal. Because even the SLPP, the people who voted SLPP MPs have the right to ask them that, what have you done to us? So it is a blow. That's why I published a piece yesterday via my Twitter that I am collectively ashamed as a member of Parliament to be part of this process that has stripped the Attorney General of her duties, which is unprecedented and which is a dangerous sign for our democracy.
This action by Parliament is one that was, of course, preceded by allegations of professional misconduct. Melvin, at some point in time, the Clerk of Parliament, of course, did read out a letter from the President with regards to investigation and the removal of the Auditor General and her deputy. Let's look at the aspects of professional misconduct in this case. This was an office, individuals that were being, a lot of praises were being heaped on them, the Auditor General and the deputy, upon the assuming of office by the Bio-led administration, taking into cognizance their role in what was the GTT report. Melvin, what sort of a signal does same sense to, of course, generally the way we do things in Sierra Leone?
I think that I will describe it as an executive capture of other arms of government, in my honest opinion, for the fact that the Constitution, one, has given the President the power to be a member of Parliament and at the same time the Chief Executive. So that blurs the line on the theory or practice of separation of powers. And thus, if the President, who is the Chief Executive and a member of Parliament in dual capacities, is writing a message to lawmakers that, oh, you must technically do what I'm asking you to do, it means that the executive overreached. It's overreached, whether you call it legal lobbying or whatever, or corrupt lobbying, but that was an overreaching lobbying for the fact that it was meant to influence lawmakers across the divide. Even if you are a SLPP MP with your conscience or however you call it, or morality or constitutionality, once the President, who is the Chief Executive and doubles also as the leader of the political party you're representing, is asking you to do something technically, it shows that your moral compass or your legislative primacy has been mortgaged.
I think it's in line also with the wordings of the Constitution. The President has the powers to, of course, call on Parliament to remove. And that was, I think, that was what the President did follow.
No,
by sending that
the President
letter
has not got powers.
These are the wordings of that letter.
Can you read the provisions in 2?
Urging members of Parliament to consider the recommendations of the tribunal report.
On what provision of the law?
Which advocates for the removal of the Auditor General and her deputy.
That message from the President is not predicated on law. It was just using his supreme executive power on the legislature. Let anybody from the government bench or the government come and tell me where it says that the President should send a message where the Constitution in 137 and 119 is very clear that the Constitution is assuming that MP should have acted independently, not influenced by the supreme executive. So
was there a need for rush, or do you sense a semblance of rush in the voting process?
Well, I don't know if I will call it a rush, but I know the fiscal year was coming to an end, and if I was a lawmaker, based on experience, if you follow the answers, always in the Parliament, dangerous laws are passed on the 11th hour. or it's either an 11th hour for recess, 11th hour for holidays, or 11th hour for the dissolution of parliament. So I think the political parties should have learned that lesson that, oh, we parliament one can lock so, and then say any kind of thinking cow, so una for kana parliament, una for day at all time. Because that has been the practice from APC to SLPP. Once they know that many people are distracted with other activities, these are the times the political class will use what I call unorthodox or subterranean means to get their way. And can you blame them for that? Well, wherein politics is played in good faith, whether politics is in good faith, I will not be able to tell. But that should have been the case, early notification and all of that. But the APC is also part of the business committee. So if the leader of the APC is saying that that was not discussed at the business committee and it was not to be on the other paper, that would be a safe argument for what is called political or legislative ambushing. Is that a best practice? No. You cannot do such a thing. But again, in Sierra Leone, na man butu man watch, and our democracy is not that matured to have safeguards to avert such situations. So it's an equal blame.
Have we ever had a parliament in Sierra Leone that is fully convened with all its members present?
Not to my knowledge, but honestly it is difficult. Yesterday I read a comment from a a former British lawmaker, commenting via Twitter that it is difficult in any parliament in the whole world to have 100% attendance. It is difficult because we are human beings, like I told you earlier. One may fall ill, one may be delayed due to other circumstances, traveling, one may be out of the country. Because remember, as Parliament of Sierra Leone, we are also part of other international parliaments. So official duties, international duties also might call, and then it is difficult to have those present. So that's why the crafters of the constitution, the drafters, sorry, we are very, very deliberate on this area. That's 2/3 of the total.
Melvin.
I think in as much as it can be challenging from a human factor, but it is possible. Because in normal times, when it is the day for swearing of members of parliament, sure, all of them will be present, except when the APC boycotted in the last parliament. But I've covered, 3 parliaments. And once it's swearing day, they will be there. Once it's state opening, they will be there. Once it's budget hearing, they will be there. Once it's once it's about parliamentary welfare, they will be there. So to say it's impossible, it's not. It's possible. And it only takes, I think, thorough leadership and the whip systems of both political parties, but more so the APC. They should be having a retrospection, the whip system. Because how can you have over 7 MPs? In total, I'll check 9 MPs not towing the party line. That is called party indiscipline in party parliamentary dom. So for me to say it's not possible, that's why the Constitution is very, very clear about the choice of words. Present in parliament and voting. Because they know it's not possible, they are expecting you that when it's on consequential matters, you ought to be present and you must be voting. So the drafters were very careful in charting that.
The voting, one would say, is just one aspect of the removal. But let's look at how sufficient were the recommendations in that tribunal report. Was it sufficient to have led to? Well,
as lawmakers, but before that, quickly, wanted to just correct something. Like the state opening, the day the swearing in, for us, they informed us over 2 weeks. So you prepare, you go and even agree on your costume.
So in this case, there was not sufficient
information can attest to that. So at around 9-10. You know, and even for
but for matters serious as such, no matter where you are in Sierra Leone, 9 p.m. or 10 p.m.
for us,
it makes sense to just travel early in the morning.
I agree to a very large extent with my brother here. For us, personally, we were disappointed. Honestly, we were disappointed, and that's the more reason our leader on that day, giving an interview to Blah Online TV, he agreed that we are disappointed. Most of our members were not around, and even disappointed that some of our members voted against our position. And that's the more reason why we have agreed to have a retreat among ourselves with the leadership of the party to go and reflect why would this happen. Like, I agree with my brother, it's indiscipline. All the SLPP MPs voted, all of them, in line with their party positions. So why would some? So we agree it's a huge disappointment, but trust me, collectively, and I can't excuse myself out of that, we have agreed that collectively as a party, as a parliamentary group, we need to go to the drawing board, sit back, reflect, and map the way forward.
Samuel, this is scary. Mind you, there's an upcoming constitutional review. There are very controversial issues in that. And many of those issues, except for few, don't even need 2/3 majority, but a simple majority. If you're having this kind of precedent, not only that opposition MPs were absent. For example, I ask myself, all right, for Honorable Abdel Timbo, I will understand that he's the Deputy Secretary General. Perhaps he was in Gambia. But you ask yourself, APC as a political party, was it the right time for them to remove some of their... This speaks to the broader issue. If you are holding a national portfolio, don't go and hold party portfolio. We've been saying this across the political divide. But to come to think about it, Honorable Aja Miata, where was she? Honorable Alpha Eba, where was he? Honorable Papa Bangura, where was he? Honorable Adama Konte, where was she? You know, for me, if I was a partisan, this calls for a party action. Because, like he said, SLPP has shown that in terms of legislative discipline, they are very disciplined. They can add all of their members. Let me give you a case study that even if you are in Gambia, it should not be an excuse.
Melvin,
I agree.
Let me withdraw that. I did not say they are very disciplined. I said their members followed their party position.
And all except for the one void vote, which we don't know, but it's clear from the mathematics that all of the SLPP MPs voted a SLPP line. So come to think about it, how comes all of the APC MPs could not vote on the same party line? Let me give you a case study in Ghana. In Ghana, there was a situation, I think it was the same removal of the Auditor General in Ghana, wherein a lawmaker was hospitalized. Yes, there is no provision, the law is silent as to proxy votes and distance voting. But in Ghana, what happened, because the vote was so consequential, a lawmaker was literally, not even literally, physically removed from the hospital bed, placed in an ambulance, wheeled to the chamber for just that lawmaker to vote, because the last Ghana Parliament was tied on votes. So that shows how serious their political parties and their political party whip system is. So for me, I agree they ought not to have been ambushed. But again, like he said, I don't know, I'm not a member of the business committee, my ears are only on the ground. But yes, the leader of the opposition raised the flag that they were not informed on time. When were they informed, I don't know about that. But the fact remains, if you're having a consequential matter in Parliament, even if you are in Jerusalem, some countries have possibilities to fly you in to come and vote. And that was not seen by the APC. And another fault of the APC, they seemingly not reaching out. APC, they get this excuse number. We in our opposition will not get the number. We saw that with the speaker's election. The APC just feel like, oh, the SLPP cannot cross party line. And that can be a reason, but the reality there is, you never try, you never know. And they've not been reaching out. Even with Mohamed Bangura and Thompson, that shows that a kingdom divided against itself will not stand. Because I saw it vividly in the world that it was at the 11th hour. Some of the leaders were trying to reach out to Honorable Mohamed Bangura. In fact, Honorable Thompson, I have my reservation on some altercation he made in the well, which were very unparliamentary, but I'll come to that someday. But the fact remains, there is a need for retrospection and introspection within the political party lines.
We've had a couple of messages on our Facebook page. We'll see ways to take to go through some of them. Firstly, is from Swissman, who says, we'll never have a strong institution if our leaders are not prepared to change their corrupt attitude. One thing I know is that corruption and development will always resolve to deprive shots of life and unnecessary dismissal of some good people who are willing to work in the interest of the country, like people, like people, of course, like Lara Taylor-Pierce. Any corrupt government would not like her for her credible performance. However, let me see. Sorry. This one is not clear. Okay. Large LPS and in any corrupt government will not like her for a credible performance. However, conspiring to vote someone out of the way is total conspiracy to pummel the credibility of the person. That's how a corrupt government works. A corrupt government can force to get anyone out of the way when they know that you are not willing to accept their wicked and accept their wicked and selfishness. If we are to talk about voting against the removal of someone, that's crazy. If you are desperate to remove the voting is corrupt and over dictating to remove the person from her position. I think there is a bypassing protocol because of the intention of the sitting government. A credible institution is difficult to have in Sierra Leone because of political infighting. Bokari Momo says, good morning to you all in Sierra Leone. Okay. Mosdi says, my good young Minkailo brother Ibrahim, my good young Maninkala brother Ibrahim, or Maninkala brother, Honorable Ibrahim Barry, I'm a bit curious to why the APC as a party were not preparing or anticipating this motion to remove the Auditor General could be brought in Parliament at any moment by government, especially when we all know that the government was very much ready to take such actions. Honorable Ibrahim, this one is from Ke Bangura. He says, Honorable Ibrahim, what's your definition of democracy? Lolo Gasparani says, listen, Sierra Leone is an underdeveloped third world country. That's just a fact we should accept. That means its system and structures are more theory than fact, especially when it comes to law enforcement and justice. If you want something done in Sierra Leone, you have to get your hands dirty. Osfren Kamara says, talk half, left half. Melvin, in a circle, constitutional derailment is a dark political web, infectious venue. Abubakar Rashid says, Melvin, that accuses the APC member gave that they were not informed does not hold. This one is much more clear. From his body language shows that him, and of course this one is not clear. This one is not clear. Please ensure that you tell all the messages to the issues that we discuss and not individuals or the personalities in the studio. But nonetheless, again, David Fonny says, why stress over members of parliament and in parliament at a time of voting? For argument's sake, there are a total of 149 members, including parliament chiefs, and assuming all the members of parliament absent voted with the APC, they still will have got the 2/3 votes. 100 of 149 is 67%. Ke Bangra says, Honorable Ibrahim, you're one of partisan voters. You voted to protect your symbol, not on principle or patriotism. Last from for now is from Mosdiu says, so what are the provisions for the members that are absent from Parliament due to official compassionate or emergencies such as sickness, accident, or death? Those are the messages to take for now and allow the guests to respond. Honorable, you take first.
Thank you very much. The person who said my Maninkala brother, Maninkala is the community I hail from in Makeni.
Oh, wow.
So it's a Madingo settlement. So it's a popular place. He asked if we weren't given enough time. I've given you an example. Normally, we receive a notification 24 hours ahead. They publish other paper. That was not done. And then for important programs like the swearing in, the day the president comes for the state opening, they even inform of maybe like 1-2 weeks earlier. Okay, so that was a major reason. But honestly, I sat here reflecting on the reality. Somebody asked the question. He said, I also voted on party line. As I sit here, remember the International Institute for Auditors in Tunisia, something like that, they looked into this. and concluded and published a paper that the auditor acted in the best interest. What we were trying to do is politically motivated. The Sierra Leone Institute of Chartered Accountants, they investigated this. They concluded that what the auditor did was in line with best practice. The Lawyer Society, Civil Society, ILRAJ, this is not APC or SAPP position. Even international bodies, national critical voices said the Auditor General acted. This was the Auditor General who wrote and published damning reports against APC during the Ebola. So if I voted to ensure that we don't remove that auditor because she simply pursued the office of the president, that is, I believe our party championed. We organized the press conference. We published our position, which is in the best interest of the country. But sadly, the 81 SAPP MPs, the 81 SAPP MPs, some PC MPs, and some few of our colleagues from our party went against our position, went against the position of Sierra Leoneans. So that is important. Somebody said, what will we do against those that went against our position and those that were absent? Like I said, I would re-echo the position of our leader, Honorable Abdul Kagbo. He gave an interview. We will have a retreat. We will have a retreat together with members of Parliamentary caucus of the APC, together with the leadership of our party, to assess, to reflect, and see how we can learn from this. Like Melvin said here, there are other very, very important instruments that we are expecting. The constitutional review, very critical things. So if we don't learn from this, go back to the drawing board and prepare ourselves. Like in the army, they said when you run, you leave back to fight another day. I think that is what we are going to do as a party. I want to use this medium as a member of parliament for the All People's Congress to apologize to Sierra Leoneans, and to apologize to our party supporters who look to us to save the Attorney General, even though the Speaker changed the rule of the game, the rule in the middle of the game. But for those saving people and for failing to protect the Attorney General, we are sorry as a parliamentary group, and we take collective responsibility. Not me, not the leader, Honorable Abdul Kagbo, but we all take collective responsibility. It is shame that something like this will happen, and we urge Sierra Leoneans to demand better, and for all of us, but not just APC MPs, even you, the SAPP supporters, you have to demand better from your politicians. Not just for them to come and just vote on party lines, but ask them on social delivery, what are they doing? On accountability and good governance, what are they doing? It is the right of the citizens.
I think those to be a part in courts. Melvin, respond to the messages and as we see ways to close.
Well, for me, I think, respectfully, I beg to differ with the APC. They don't need a retreat for now. They need an attack. And that attack should be informed by...
No, retreat.
Well, retreat.
Retreat.
Well,
you know what retreat
I'm looking at just the conceptual word.
We are not withdrawing. We are having a session
a retreat is just a seminar and a workshop.
Exactly.
They don't need workshop now. They need action.
Okay.
The APC needs action. And they need to take what I would call consultative, inclusive, and radical action. Consultative, inclusive, and radical action. This is a warning shot that an isolated APC within itself will not stand. And for me, what's happened in Parliament is just a consequence of what is happening at Old Railway Line for the APC. There are fragmentations and factions within the APC. And we are seeing semblance of that in the House of Lords. So the APC don't need to retreat. They need to attack these issues if they want to really do something better. And now on interest groups, the Honorable mentioned Intosai and all these groups, I will tell you, they have been hypocritical. They've been more theoretical than practical. Let me give you what I mean by that. When religious groups or some religious groups don't want the Safe Motherhood Bill, they were not only issuing press release, Samuel, you watch the news, they were there vis-a-vis in practical. For Laratilo PRC's removal, I did not see any 50-50 or so-called women's empowerment groups. I did not see any experts or professional bodies coming to Old Banner that we are against this action. So for me, it was just an hypocrisy that, oh, don't remove it in black and white. But what did you do after just writing? Did you go the extra mile to go to Parliament? Were you able to mobilize your public pressure support? No. They only rendered what I would call lip services. And that could have been one of the reasons also the public did not play its part enough, particularly those that were purportedly in support of Lara and not removing her. They were only busy issuing press release while the SLPP government was busy putting its 99 tactics in place. For me, that was a disservice and a disservice to Section 13 of the Constitution. Section 13 says every citizen must be good citizen. If you think the removal of Auditor General undermines accountability and transparency, you should have been in Parliament. All your banners, mobilize your support, but that was not done. It seems as if Lara Teropeyas was alone in a battle. And on the president, well, Honorable should be very careful here when he advances the arguments of we are not well informed. Now let me tell this to the public. There is a provision, I think it's Section 86, that gives the president the power to emergency summon Parliament.
You're right.
President Bio can sit at State House now and say tomorrow, I want Parliament to sit and begin to discuss the constitutional review.
Saving in the evening.
So will the APC say, oh, we are not informed on time?
I think that
and let me just address the issue of consultation. Consultation in the Constitution is not sacrosanct. We can discuss, but that doesn't mean I should agree with you. As per the interpretation, Section 170 of the Constitution, it is there. So I think the APC, they must be frank, and I'm happy that the Honorable has apologized. That what they did was a show of an informidable opposition. And that's the slap on the face of democracy, because there is no democracy without a formidable... No, it's because...
Honorable,
we are a formidable opposition.
I was as well tempted to ask,
yes,
is the APC a constructive opposition in Parliament?
We are a very constructive opposition. In fact, this sixth Parliament, we have one of the best sets of opposition since the end of the Civil War. Our problem is, you know, sometimes we need to look at the realities. My brother, we saw how the SLPP through the Electoral Commission stole seats all over, taking 4 seats from Poloko, 5 from Western Rural, fighting extremely hard to get 2/3. Only God delivered us from that. And now they are in Parliament influencing PCMPs, trying to influence even APC MPs. But with all of that, we are trying. It's not just about this. On every crucial bill, during the election of the Speaker, we went about 3 rounds. They were unable to get the 2/3. It was after we had a compromise, our shadow, our MP, Honorable Daniel Kroma, who we nominated to stand for the Speaker. It was only after he accepted that they got the majority. That was a great exemplary day in our democracy. And when I say retreat here, I don't mean retreating backward. It's a seminar. We are going to the drawing board. We've agreed. And the apology I indicated here is that I apologize as part of the Parliament because we failed Sierra Leone.
What has been the action of the APC since?
We have monthly press conference.
Have we had position paper with regards to same?
We have monthly press conference.
Have we had position paper with regards to same, with regards to what's occurred in Parliament?
On this one?
Yes.
We had our position paper. We had a press conference organized.
But I've not
published our position paper. I will send it to you now. Or if you allow me, I can even read it. On the day of the parliamentary proceedings, our leader even read our position paper before that. Every month we have a monthly press conference. It's an innovative strategy by any opposition in this country. We did the first one, we focused on the economy. Okay. The second one, we looked at energy. The third one, we looked at the feed salon, and we will continue. And I encourage Sierra Leoneans to look at debates. Today, we have crucial bills on the table. We have the Safe Motherhood Bill. We have the Child Rights Act, which is controversial. We are there as opposition to ensure we checkmate the government to do the right thing. And finally, I will agree with Melvin that on that day, civil society could have showed up. They could have been there, like what other groups are doing for 50-50. Yeah. But you know why I will not also blame them? The civil society and others that are showing up for the Safe Abortion Bill, the others, they have been informed. They know the time that they need to come for the Child Rights Act. In fact, one senior civil society messaged me early in the morning by 7 a.m. He said, Barry, we've just learned that they are coming up with your general vote today. I said, yeah, we just saw that last night. So I will blame them, yes, for not showing up, but I can understand with them because of the impromptu way that they brought the issue to the Legislative House.
Honorable Ibrahim Barry, it's been a pleasure having you in the studios this morning.
Thank you so much.
And also Melvin Tijan Mansari, we appreciate your coming this morning.